Back at work for the Buckeyes. It is August 1st, and of course, we do have college football this month. So, when you're in the calendar month of the first game, it's time to get serious. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Comments and questions are welcome. We appreciate your contributions as well. Steve showing up for us, Tony as well. Steve Hellwagon, of course, Bucknuts 247 Sports, Tony Gerdeman, BuckeyeHuddle.com, Buckeye Weekly's the podcast. Get there. Tony, we'll start with you. 2 days in the books, and what made the most impression for you?
The most impression is that I think the quarterback battle is still, nobody has moved ahead of anybody. It's all still being wide open, and the reps are split, and the offenses are split. So, you've got one quarterback who is working with 3/5 of the starting offensive line and one starting receiver, and you've got the other quarterback working with 2/5 of the starting offensive line and 2/3 of the starting receivers. So they're seeing a lot of checkdowns and short passing so far in the first 2 days, which I think is also a credit to the defense, and the defense should be ahead of the offense at this point. But really just overall, not a lot to take away for me from the quarterbacks. I think they've both been fine. I don't think anybody's been outstanding yet. But in terms of anybody standing out or has caught my eye, I would say Turbo Rogers, the freshman running back, has been interesting. And he's just arrived in June or so, and he didn't go through spring, but he's somebody in camp, you can't get too overwhelmed by what you see from the running backs, but he keeps catching my eye with the way he's moving, and just he's so small at times that you don't see him until he pops out, and I think the defense has the same issues with him.
Tony, why in the Buckeye groups of fan bases that I see, collection of fans, I should say, under the Ohio State umbrella, has there been an assumption, and maybe I bought into it myself, for this entire offseason at a certain point, that we hit a point where Julian Sayin has been anointed the starting quarterback, and it didn't seem to be questioned by many people until Ryan Day made a comment at Big Ten Media Days?
Well, I think part of the issue, for one, he beat out Lincoln Kienholz last year as the number 3 quarterback. So that's one thing. As a true freshman, he's got the better recruiting pedigree. He was handpicked by Nick Saban, and as we know, Nick Saban can do no wrong. And then you hear the way his former teammates at the NFL Combine talked about him, and his current teammates have talked about him, the way Chip Kelly has talked about him. Like, everything other than maybe what we see lets you know that this is going to be the guy. But as I try to remind people, you still got to go out and win the job, and you also have to keep from losing the job. And so Lincoln Kienholz, who was just named, I think, one of the 8 Iron Buckeyes for the summer Ohio State workouts. I don't know how often quarterbacks earn that award. I don't think it's very often, but he was one of them. And so there's going to be a battle, but I think the majority of people, I'd say rightly, expect Julian Sayin to eventually take over and be the guy, because the way people talk about him that see him every day, I think that means something.
Comments and questions are welcome, everyone. We appreciate you being here at the Voice for College Football, typically with these two and Kevin Noon on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So keep that in mind. But also, please subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications, because we are working on 4 different schedules. So sometimes we got to call an audible. So please hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live, so you can make it here on time. Keep in mind that I take your calls in about an hour on the main channel, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, the College Football Show. And since you bring up the Iron Buckeyes, Tony, I think we were having this conversation about this time last year about how can a quarterback be considered tough? And that, of course, was Will Howard. And then I think he proceeded to show us how. So Julian Sayin was given that type of consideration.
Well, that was Lincoln Keynotes. That was
Or I'm
named,
sorry, Lincoln
yeah.
Keyholtz.
But also that thing of toughness. I remember asking the quarterbacks in the spring, you're not allowed to be touched in practice. You're off limits. So how do you go about proving your toughness? And a lot of it is the workouts, being the first in the building, the last to leave, being prepared, like just all out effort and everything, because they both know they're being judged by everything. And, Lincoln Keynotes is a bigger quarterback than Julian saying. Like, I think Lincoln is not, he's 6'2" or 6'3", and like he's not the biggest kid, but he's listed at 6'2", 214. Julian's saying listed at 6'1", 208. So you're not talking 6'5" versus 6'1" or whatever, but you have to do it in all of the intangible ways, and then as many tangible ways as you can, whether that's just sticking to your reads as long as you can. I think that was also something that I've seen the first 2 days is the quarterbacks don't have a lot of time to just go through their progressions. And so that's a little bit of why maybe things aren't looking great for them right now. But yeah, it's just doing everything you can to prove that you are the guy. And then eventually, as Ryan Day says, the locker room will know who it is. And then basically the locker room and the coach will confirm it.
You ready to chime in on this one, Steve? You're on mute.
Sorry, I am. I had to take care of a couple business things there real quick. I'm glad that Tony could handle the opening salvo here. I agree with a lot of what he has said. A little disconcerting yesterday that starting defensive tackle Edric Houston had to leave practice midway through. It was during an offense versus defense, and they're not full go the first 2 days. Tomorrow they will be in full pads, and I just wonder if they'll do some type of 11 on 11 or thud or whatever it is, but probably not a lot of tackling to the ground, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle it, and we get to go tomorrow, which is cool. But Edric Houston was back there today. He went through the warm-ups, and then he walked off and headed presumably to go get treatment. He had a brace on his right knee, and could have had a sprain or a hyperextension perhaps of his right knee on Thursday. So I don't think that this is going to be anything too serious. For him to not be on crutches, I think that's a good thing by process of elimination. So I think that he was out there today and went through a little bit of movement, and then presumably went in and got some treatment. So that was good. They got some other guys banged up, but nothing too severe, it doesn't feel yet. So through 2 days, knock on wood, that everything is good so far in that regard. One area that I've been very impressed is the running backs. I think James Peoples, C.J. Donaldson, and the freshman Bo Jackson have all stepped up and all looked really good. Explosive is the way I would term it. So when they get an opportunity with the ball in their hands, they're going to make it very difficult, I think, on opposing defenses. Are they going to be as good as the tandem of Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins were last year? There's no possible way. But I think that they're going to be just fine for what this offense is going to need. I think you're going to need a group. It's not going to be just one guy, like it was a couple of years ago, just Travion. I think you're going to have several guys sharing the load. And to me, I think that's a healthy way to handle it. So I think the running backs have been impressive. Just the size of these players is something to just – the recruiting has been real good, it seems to me. So if they're as good as they are big, they're going to be really good. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'm with you on the linebackers as a whole, or the running backs, because Bo Jackson we saw him in the spring, and he's always doing something. And I think maybe we don't talk about James Peoples enough, and he looked good again today. He's quick, east, west, north, south. And then CJ Donaldson looks better than he ever has in terms of just the look, because he was 240 pounds last year. He's down to about 225 now. And he's a long strider, and he's a good pass catcher. And I think you're going to see these guys involved in in a lot of ways this year, especially with so much attention being paid to the Ohio State wide receivers. I don't know that they'll ever go more than 2.5 deep. James Peoples was the number 3 running back last year and carried the ball 49 times, which is not a lot over 16 games. Three carries a game basically, and there were no carries for him towards in the big games. So I don't know. I think Bo Jackson plays more than James Peoples did last year, but I guess I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it that they play as many guys as they could play, rather than they're very. We'll just stick with these guys while the game is still in doubt.
They got a few mismatches on this schedule, particularly weeks 2 and 3. And if they get ahead of somebody by 21 points, you obviously would shelve Peoples. And then there's no point putting more mileage on C.J. Donaldson. He's a fourth-year guy. So I think Jackson's going to get a lot of work in the fourth quarter of a lot of games. If they're, let's say, 6 games, if they blow out 6 of these teams throughout the course of the year, he gets, 5, 6, 7 carries in each of those games. It can accumulate pretty quickly. So we'll see. But I think the other thing is if he forces the coach's hand and is just so good in practice that they have to give him a shot, I don't know that it'll be in a key moment in week 1 against the University of Texas. I tend to doubt that, but I do think there'll be a place for him somewhere in line at some point. They handed us a roster yesterday, and they said, take that roster, tear it in half, throw both halves away. And they handed us another roster today. It's on our website. I'm sure it's on our message board, and I tweeted it out as well on my Twitter. So any Ohio State fans that want to check out the most updated roster as of 7 a.m. this morning, this is the new one. And a couple of weights really stick out. Obviously, Ethan Anianwa, he was pushing 360 when he transferred in from Rice. And on this roster, he is listed at 6'7", 331. He is a lean, mean, fighting machine at left tackle, which is good. And then the aforementioned Edric Houston, he was listed at 270, I think, on last year's roster. I saw him at the Special Skills Invitational for the special needs kids 2-3 weeks ago, and he wanted so badly to tell us what he was weighing, but one of the guys who worked with the players was standing there and said, "Oh, you can't tell him yet. You can't tell him yet." Like the weights of these guys are some bleeping state secret or something. But now we know Edric Houston is now walking the earth at 6'3", 292 pounds. The guy who will be right next to him, Caden McDonald, good Lord, 6'3", 326. They always talk about you got to have, like Georgia, one of them big flappy belly defensive tackles. They got one. His name's Caden McDonald right here, boys. Right here. They're going Georgia style on this one, so here we go.
CJ.
Sewanee, Georgia. North Gwinnett. He's from Georgia.
He had 7 sacks in one game in high school in the playoffs. But CJ Hicks is another guy who looked noticeably bigger and then is finally updated to 6'3", 243.
Good catch there
on the current roster. And he looks it, and excited to see what he can do this year. Also impressed by Zion Grady, true freshman, who was in the spring, defensive end. He looks like he's added some weight. And then Epi Satanale, true freshman wearing 44, defensive end, who is a lighter, maybe skinnier defensive end prospect, is looking like he's 240, 245 right now, and looks like he's got a good frame. So I know they're excited about those guys. One other guy, Jordan Woods, who's a true freshman corner who just got here in June, listed at 6'4", which is outrageous for a corner, and it's totally fake. But standing next to him, he's at least 6'3". I'll say that. I don't know if he can play corner, but he's tall.
He's a long, tall drink of water. We were talking about him, myself and Garrett Hodge from 11 Warriors, and Kevin Noon, your guy from Buckeye Huddle. We were all sitting there working on our photos during the last part of the practice, and we were marveling at this picture of Jordan Woods. And I have one, and we're like, his body could take him in a lot of different directions over the next, 3 or 4 years. If he really packs the weight on him, he could be an outside linebacker. He could be, if he put on 40, 50 pounds, he could be a defensive end. He's got a wingspan, and Garrick was joking. They brought him in specifically to challenge Jeremiah Smith in practice, at least in terms of getting up there to the high point of the ball. And we all joke that nobody can test, perish the thought. No one on God's green earth outside the National Football League can defend Jeremiah Smith. So, but yeah, Jordan Woods is a specimen, and we'll see, how good of a football player he is. That's where we're at on a lot of these freshmen. They look good right now running around, and the jersey, some thigh pads, a helmet, whatever. When they start running around and running into each other on purpose, that's when you find out who. That's when you separate the wheat from the chaff at that point, because the cream really does rise to the top in those moments. So we're going to find out, tomorrow. And what's great is we get to at least see one padded practice, even if it may not be all that telling, but we'll get to go out there tomorrow for that. But that was a lot of what I wanted to cover with the roster. I'm just perusing it one last time. And as I said, you can go to my Twitter, Steve Hellwagon, and check it. I put it on my Twitter feed, and it's also on our message board at bucknuts.com, updated roster August 1st. So feel free to go there, and I'm sure the Ohio State website will be updated sooner rather than later with all this information. But that was a lot of it right there.
How about Ohio State's 2 starting linebackers? Sonny Styles listed at 6'5", 243, and Arvell Reese listed at 6'4", 243.
It's like it's 1995 all over again or something.
You got to go back to like Alonzo Spellman to have somebody the size of Sonny Styles now playing linebacker. And
yeah,
it's going to be fascinating to see what Matt Patricia does with those 2 guys in terms of getting after the quarterback and things like that. Because Peyton Pierce is going to play this year. He's another Iron Buckeye, sophomore linebacker. He's going to play this year, just like Arvell Reese did last year. So it's a good problem to have.
I have put up 2 galleries on our site, 2 photo galleries. I did 40-some photos of offensive players, and today I just put up 35 players on defense. And I want to do one on the young and the new guys, the transfers and the young guys, just as many of them as I got. I've been there 2 days, and it's impossible to get everybody you want. But I'll get to go tomorrow to maybe one last shot at it. But I'm so impressed with just how many new guys. I mean, Riley Pettyjohn, TJ Alford, Trajan Odom. Some of these guys are just dynamite, angular built and athletic and just straight out of central casting. You'd think they're juniors and seniors, some of them, with the way they carry themselves, or at least walk out to the field. But, again, you got to be able to play football, and that takes experience and, all those other things that go into it, coaching. And, they're just, yesterday's the first day, this is a football, they started square one, A1, and that's where they start, and they just build out from there.
Ryan Dawes delivering like it's, New Year's Day against Oregon. Appreciate that, Ryan. Thanks for all the hard work all year long. Do the defensive ends or defensive tackles have the better season, better up for interpretation?
It's interesting the way everybody is talking about Kenyatta Jackson, and then talking with Matt Patricia about Kenyatta Jackson today. He's like, yeah, that everything that you're hearing about him is true in terms of leadership and just the way he's playing. And he wants to be out front of everything. He wants to do every drill first. He wants to show everybody how to do it. He wants to challenge everybody to do everything as hard as he's doing it. And he just wants to lead the room. And I think that's fantastic. And now maybe we'll finally get to see what that means in terms of production on the field, because as we know, he and Caden Curry and have been stuck behind Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau for 3 years now, and this is their 4th year. Kenyatta's a redshirt junior, and Caden Curry's a true senior. The way they're talking about Kenyatta Jackson, this is going to be the last year for both of those guys. We will see. Bo Atkinson started 1 game last year, but had 7.5 sacks, and he came in. And he's a rotational guy that can also play inside. I think there's just more possibilities at defensive end than defensive tackle. That being said, like if Edric Houston is everything that people say he is, it wouldn't shock me if he leads the defensive line with like 7.5 or 8 sacks, something like that, where the defensive ends rotate so much that they top out at like 7. And then you've got Edric Houston, who plays a lot and tops out at like 8.5 or something.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. I think the way I look at it, it's kind of an apples to oranges comparison, because we know as many as 5 or even 6 defensive ends are going to play with Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, Bo Atkinson, Logan George from Idaho State, CJ Hicks potentially. And then we're not even counting some of these very impressive young guys who are in the mix as well. Guys, that I've forgotten a little bit about.
Dominic Kirks, Joshua Mickens.
Yep. You named 2 of them right there. There was another one that caught my eye.
Zion Grady and Epi Satanale, the true freshman.
Exactly, the true freshman. Do they work their way in? There's a ton of talent there. So I think it's going to be a committee approach at defensive end. And if they can have fresh bodies on the field in the 4th quarter of competitive games, I think that is a recipe for winning. I think a defensive tackle, the 2 guys, Caden McDonald and Edric Houston, are going to take the lion's share of the reps, maybe 60% of the reps, maybe. And then who takes it after that? Like, who comes in after that? Is it Tywan Malone? Will Smith Jr. had made a little bit of a run in the spring. They've got some other guys there. Jason Moore. He is in his he's a 3rd-year sophomore. Jason Moore, originally from DeMatha Catholic. He was like a borderline national top 100 player. I think it's time for that guy to come in and get something done. Eric Mensah is a redshirt freshman, 6'2", 302. And then the freshman, Trajan Odom, and who's the other one here? Jarquez. Goodness gracious, 6'1", 288 right now, but they will stretch him out, make him taller. But yeah, it's it is a great group, I think, at both those. And I say both, all 4 of those positions. I think we have fretted over the defensive line. I think they're going to be more than adequate, and I think it's going to work out. The more I'm seeing, I want to see. It's too bad we don't get to go like when they're actually playing a live 11-on-11 football to see just how good is this pass rush going to be in real life. We saw a little bit in the spring game, but that's kind of wonky. So yeah, let's get into it, and hopefully they get after Arch Manning in the first game. We'll just put it that way.
And the other thing with the defense, some of those defensive ends are going to be playing as defensive tackles and passing down. So they're going to take some of those defensive tackle snaps as well. And we may see some odd fronts where you've got 2 defensive ends, a defensive tackle, and then, oh, by the way, here's Sonny Styles lining up on the edge as well.
No doubt.
Steve, you displayed the revision of the roster. So people get caught up with these player numbers. Any players that switch numbers, or did anything people are getting all uptight about?
Yeah, Brandon Ennis was 11, and he is now taken number 1 on offense. Let's just see. Devin Sanchez, who's a freshman, is going to be number 4. He is the lowest number for a true freshman, which I take as they must have thought he was really good. Of course, he was the number 4 overall player in the country coming out of Houston, Texas. Let's see. Jermaine Matthews, I think, wore 24 last year, and now he's wearing number 7 on defense, which is a notable number. Arvell Reese had a higher number, and he's now number 8. So for me, I have a hard enough time remembering all this stuff anyway. And then they show up and they change numbers. It's hard for me to stay on top of that or with that. Quincy Porter, true freshman, he was in there in the spring. He's number 11, which is a pretty good number for a true freshman. So those are some of the low end numbers. I'm just going down through for any other changes that stick out. I don't know that there were a lot of other changes, but some interesting people on here. Jaston Gwynn, number 35, true freshman from Westerville Central. His dad, I think, was AJ Gwynn, I want to say.
Anthony, right?
Anthony, yeah. Anthony Gwynn, who played in the 90s. And, of course, his uncle, Justin, I think, died
Jason.
in the car accident, correct? Does that sound right? In like 92 or 93. And the other one, Stanley Jackson Jr., who is the son of the Westerville North head coach and former Ohio State quarterback from the late 90s, Stanley Jackson. Stanley Jackson has gone in at Westerville North and done a bang-up job through a couple of years. And he also sent Jake Cook, the offensive lineman from Westerville North. He's a freshman on this team as well. So Stanley, I don't know how much involved he had been in coaching. I don't know if he had done middle school or was on a high school staff or just done youth, but he's gone in as a varsity head coach and, won some games there at North where it's been a bit of a struggle, I think, in recent years there.
Yeah, also still have Ryan Rodzinski, another legacy Buckeye at safety. So, yeah, there's always room for the Buckeye children. Basically.
Mason Maggs, his dad was Bob Maggs, an offensive lineman. He's a walk-on quarterback. Does a lot of scout team stuff. Mason Maggs does.
Maggs 71, Rudzinski 35, correct? The fathers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Rudd wore 35, was on the Rose Bowl team in the 98 as well. Will Smith Jr., obviously his father has passed away, died in a road rage incident in New Orleans and a few years ago. But it was neat to see that he came out of Dublin Kaufman. Yeah. So, we'll see. He's got a chance to be in that defensive tackle mix. No doubt.
Doreen, thanks for being here. Doreen's going to be out at practice tomorrow. Can't wait. And you catch Doreen and Minnie Hunt on Sunday nights here at the Voice of College Football. They do a 9 p.m. Eastern time show. So
Doreen, flag Tony and I down tomorrow. If you see us, say hello.
Doreen is, I don't want to misquote this. She's a red coat.
Wow. Okay.
She's a red coat.
Awesome.
My first response to that was, why are they not called scarlet coats?
Good question.
Too many syllables.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Red coat.
All right. Red coat.
Red coats, they perform a very valuable function. I will tell you that. They do a great job. I've gotten to know so many of them over the years too. This is my 31st year covering football on a full-time basis, and I've done it part-time for 5 or 6 years, just mostly the home games, the 5 or 6 years prior to that. And there are so many great people that work at these venues that they want to help you. They really do. It's not like it used to be in the 70s and 80s where they were just no fun to deal with. Now they are willing to try and help you any way they can.
They've had a culture change.
Yes, much needed culture change, let me tell you.
All right. Phil Steele stopped by the other day. Everybody check out that show over on the main channel. And Phil says he wants to stop by next month. He's like, Mark, we didn't get to enough teams. Let's do it again next month. So we'll have Phil Steele by next month as well. So again, check out the video on the main channel. And I bring him up because unless we've got any more territory to cover with fall practice, I was curious to get your individual takes on some of Phil Steele's takes on the Buckeyes, considering I can imagine with you two, you're both proponents of the Phil Steele magazine and getting your copy every year. And while you're learning from Phil Steele with all these other teams, I got to think once it comes to the Buckeyes, you're pretty much, it's kind of an opposite it's a role reversal to a certain extent. Like, okay, let's see what Phil Steele has to say. We're going to check his accuracy here to see if he really got it right concerning the Buckeyes, who he considers to be the 5th best team in the country, both in regards to just a pure power ranking and also versus the schedule to be the number 5 ranked team in the country. If we look at the position units, and I know it's awfully difficult when you've got a new quarterback, so that's a difficult one to take on. That's obviously unlike every other position because you've only got one guy, but I'm scrambling for the position units because I was going to go in a different direction.
Page 18.
Page 18. Thank you very much. He's got Ohio State at something like, if I can find the page numbers, 40th in the country in quarterbacks. I'll get the exact number.
46.
Better than that.
46.
Sounds a little low.
15 spots lower than Virginia Tech. Cincinnati at 29.
Cincinnati. Pitt.
But
maybe.
Like,
yeah.
And he uses a ton of data and numbers. So like, I understand that sort of thing. But you mentioned like the role reversal is where, and I think he did a pretty good job this year is whenever I get a magazine, I'm looking like, what errors did you make with Ohio State's depth chart? That sort of thing. But I think he did pretty well in this year's, but like, that's one of the things I need this for all of the other teams, because I that's just everything else I'm writing about or whatever. And then I look at the, I'm very thankful for that. Then you look at the Ohio State aspect of it and you just become critical of, well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't have that there. I don't know that you need that walk-on listed when you could have used, that spot for more data about some of the presumed starters. The other thing was, I think in the last couple of years, it's getting harder for me to read the pages.
The type, yeah, my eyes I need a freaking magnifying glass. I almost said the GD magazine should come with a magnifying glass. Yeah, like taped on the cover.
Just give us a large
better about myself now.
Yeah.
I'm still okay with the type. I just
like I've got a little mini. I get a little mini lamp here that will help. But there are times where it's like, I literally know I can't read this, and I'll put my phone over it just so I can like see the screen on my phone. It's and it's not Phil. It's obviously it's us. But yeah, could we like what was too much to pay for a large print edition for us old people?
There's perfect.
Do you know Phil casts himself, as this great holder of all this data? He's got 45 years of game logs with all the gambling information, because that's what a lot of this book is about, is getting edges and whatever, to make your bets throughout the entire season, trends and all these other things. So, Phil has watched a lot of college football. I presume he's watched his share of Penn State college football. And I'm confused where there is a pedigree with Penn State, as talented as they may or may not be, I don't know, in terms of winning games against national top 5 teams or top 10 teams. Ohio State had to beat like 8 of them last year to win the national championship. And Penn State's beaten like 2 of them in the last 20 years or 2 of them in the last 15 years under James Franklin. Hasn't beaten Ohio State since 2016. They got to the Final Four by beating, what'd we say, SMU and Boise State. So, it just, I don't know. Lost to Oregon, lost to Ohio State, lost to Notre Dame. So I want to know if he knows all the facts and figures and everything, how he picks Penn State on the basis, I assume, of their talent, because it ain't the fact that they go out and win those kind of nut crunch games, because they just don't do it. And, the last time Penn State was ranked 1 or 2 in the country was in 1999. They had LeVar Arrington and Courtney Brown, and they completely imploded. Like they lost 3 or 4 games, lost the game to Minnesota. So, whatever.
Okay, here's my take on that, Steve. If you're making predictions, season-long predictions, and you really like somebody from a talent perspective, but you've got issues and they have issues that they've shown, like a James Franklin, like a Drew Aller by extension, you can be one of two guys. You can either be the guy that says, I am never picking that program until they prove it. They got to prove it first. Or you're going to be the guy that says, you know what? Before Kirby Smart breaks through, I'm going to be the guy that's going to get ahead of the curve, and I'm going to see it. I'm going to envision it before it happens, before fill in the blank, Ryan Day breaks through and wins a national championship. I'm going to forecast it because he's got zillions of doubters that says he's never going to win a national championship. He has to prove it first. Just a thought.
Hey, every dog eventually will have his day. So, maybe this is James Franklin's year. He was really feeling his oats there at our last show was before, I think I just got into Vegas last Monday, I think, when we did it. We didn't do one while I was out there or since we've been back, but he was kind of, he's very opinionated. He's feeling pretty good about his team, I think, when he's laying it out there and letting everybody know how he feels about different things. Did question why it was in Vegas and, all these other things. So, yeah.
I can't think of a guy that is considered a great coach that did not win a national championship in any kind of modern BCS or playoff era. Like every time I try to think of, okay, who's a great coach that we would all agree is a great coach? Is David Shaw a great coach? No. Is, fill in the blank, a great coach? Maybe Bill Snyder, but great coach at a place that has the resources to win the national championship. I don't know who that is. Bo Schembechler would be the last one that is truly an all-time great, but did not win the big one.
Well, I think
not win the whole thing.
There's two basketball examples at Purdue, Gene Cady and Matt Painter. I mean, both Hall of Famers.
For football examples.
Well, I know, but
I can't find that guy. Mark Richt would be about the best coach I can think of with the best run of success. He finished more than half the seasons in the top 10.
Yeah, and James Franklin's problem is that the big wins just aren't there. And then the wins that he does get discounted. Well, that's not a big one because you won it, so there's also that aspect of it. I don't know. I'm a little confused as to why everybody says Penn State is the favorite. Like I have not seen any organization, magazine, voting block pick Ohio State. Now I think the Cleveland.com poll where Penn State finished with one more first place vote, that's
12-11.
That's some writers that are picking Ohio State, and it's just there's no overwhelming, like Penn State is consensus everywhere, unanimous Big Ten pick, and it's just odd to me, and I think a lot of that has to do with, well, Michigan did this and then Ohio State did this. This is what it's like. I think that's pretty simplistic, and they've got their quarterback back. Look at what he did in the playoffs and the postseason and the big games. And it's like, yes, it's a plus, but I don't know if it's the plus that you think it is.
Yeah. I think, again, it's a mental block, just as Michigan was a mental block for Cooper in the 90s. And Michigan may very well be a mental block for these day teams right now at Ohio State. So, don't want to say that, but and there's been some extenuating circumstances too. These are some of the best Michigan teams that they've had in the last 40 years, really, probably back to 97. But I think that they've got to come to Columbus after losing to Ohio State 9 consecutive times and try and pull out a win. And that's going to be very difficult. So, we'll see how it all plays out. But, Ohio State, darned if they did, beat Penn State and Indiana last year and finished behind both those teams. So, whatever.
Penn State, Texas, Clemson. Those seem to be the only teams I see in the top 3 spots or in the number 1 spot to win a national championship as predicted by anyone of note.
I asked Franklin, okay, you take Tyler Warren, who was the entire team, off the offense. Like, who's going to make up that production? And I don't think it's an easy answer. I think you spread that around to whoever his replacement at tight end is, the 2 great running backs, Allenton and Singleton. He made a great point. Both of them are in contention to be the all-time leading rushers at Penn State, which is kind of crazy. Who would be their all-time leading rusher? I don't even know. Did Franco Harris, did he play there? I don't know.
Yeah, he played there, but I think it's more like Curtis Enos.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I'll check that.
He was really good. So, a Kajana Carter, but, he really only had a couple, one and a half or 2 good years there. So Saquon, yeah, he was awesome. So kind of puts it in perspective how good those guys are. And apparently they brought in 3 really good wide receivers from the transfer portal to bolster the wide receiver core. So, once Aller gets on page with those guys, maybe this is an offense that does go out and put up 38, 40 points a game and just lights up the scoreboard and makes it difficult on people. So who do we have?
Evan Royster.
Good player. Kurt Warner, great player. Tony Hunt, Blair Thomas, Curtis Enos, DJ Dozier, Larry Johnson. He was a great player. Lydell Mitchell, Nicholas Singleton, and Katron Allen are both within 1,000 yards of the record. Holy cow. Katron's just a little over 1,000. Wow, that's a great list. Heisman winner John Capoletti down there. Man.
And I think right now James Franklin is 1-15 against top 5 teams, and
Wow.
Ohio State won 5 top 5 games last year. They were 5-1 against top 5 teams, and the lone loss being the loss at Oregon.
If you really want to win the national championship, I mean, you think about it. The gauntlet you have to run, the last 3 games are all top 10 teams. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. I mean, that's the way it is.
And that one win was the win over Ohio State in 2016 with the fluke kick block, and so
yeah, Urban gave him the game with his arrogance. No, I'm just kidding. Had to get a shot in at Herbs. No, just joking.
The Ohio State running backs are number 15 in the country, according to Phil Steele.
That's probably about right, because you don't know anything right now. You assume that Donaldson is going to come in and have a really good year from West Virginia, 2,000 career yards, and that James Peoples is a special player. That would be great. And Bo Jackson potentially down the line could be, top 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in OSU history potentially down the line. I don't want to put him in the elite company with Ezekiel Elliott, and Eddie George and Dobbins and some of those other cats just yet. But, really good player, though.
I do question the putting Michigan at 11 in the running backs thing with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. Jordan Marshall basically as being the 2 guys who have a combined, 700 yards rushing last year, which is about what the Buckeyes, or which C.J. Donaldson and James Peoples did last year. But as Steve said, Donaldson has 3 years of experience under his belt. I think they're going to be higher than 15 if there were such a ranking after the season. I think they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, forget the wide receivers. That's set in stone. Number 1, the offensive line, he's got it 13, which I guess on the surface, if you didn't know what happened last year, you would think, oh, they lose an All-American center. They lose a first-round draft pick. But those guys weren't there for the stretch drive anyway.
What they did was a miracle. I'll just say that. What they did was a miracle.
Well, what they lost, didn't Donovan Jackson go first round and Josh Simmons? So, you lose 2 first rounders, the Remington Award winner, and then Josh Fryer, who is a former first team All Big Ten right tackle. So you lose 4 guys, but in essence, you return 4 starters and you add in 2 tackles from the portal who have starting experience. So they made the most of what happened last year, and they'll be better for it this year. I think they're going to be very, very good on the offensive line. I don't have any concerns about the offensive line. They even know, I think, who their third tackle is, and Ian Moore. Who knows what they would do if a guard went out. They would maybe probably put Austin Searveld there and then bring in Ian Moore at tackle. So they're versatile and they're deep-ish, but I know they feel really good about their top 6 guys.
Tony, what is the stat that you like to deliver on the tight end position? Ohio State has not had a starting tight end not reach the NFL since sometime in the early 90s.
It's Ohio State has not signed a tight end recruit who since like 1996. Since 1996, every tight end that Ohio State has signed that hasn't transferred or been medically retired or moved positions has cashed NFL money. So that's whether that's a few weeks at camp or preseason games or being drafted or whatever. So if you are, and right now G. Scott's, I keep seeing his name pop up on Twitter having some success in camps as well. So if you at least want to know for sure that the NFL is going to see you and invite you to camp, or at the very least invite you to camp, go play tight end at Ohio State, because that's if you stay there, they'll eventually get you to the NFL, and then it's up to you to stay in the NFL. But these tight ends now, like Brody Lennon, who's just a true freshman, he had a nice play today, catching the run as a touchdown. Nate Roberts, true freshman, who was in the winter, like he's going to be really good, I think. And those guys, I don't know how they're going to play because there's 5 guys ahead of them.
And that's what I was going to ask. Isn't this the best tight end room potentially that they've had in forever?
Well, Max Clare, I mean, we know from Purdue, 40-some catches, is a very good player, no doubt. And they reprised that story about how it was the safeties, Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom, who told Keenan Bailey to go after him if he entered the portal, because he was, other than Tyler Warren, the best tight end that they played against. So that was kind of neat that the defensive guys were keeping an eye out for potential addies for the next season. But Claire's going to get most of the work. Bennett Christian is a guy who's threatening to play quite a bit. Good blocker. They have Demarion Witten on here as a tight end, but I think he's been with the wide receiver group, I think, the first few days. Yeah,
they just haven't fixed that. That he was listed that as a tight end last year as well. Will Kazmarek was, he's a co-starter. He and Max Clare are going to be your starting tight ends. Keenan Bailey calls him the best run blocking tight end in the country. Got Jelani Thurman. Bennett Christian has continued to be a leader. So they've got a bunch of guys, and they're all really good. And the crazy thing is, like, nobody leaves, nobody transfers out, because Keenan Bailey will play these guys. Like 4 of them played in the national championship game. 5 of them, I think, maybe played against Texas. Like, I've said it's the deepest position room in America, just because of who they can play and when they can play, and anybody can play. So it's a really impressive job. And then they just go and get, somebody out of the portal like Max Clare or Will Kazmarek the year before. They've got a deep room, and they're okay making it deeper.
Steve, what do we have going on at Bucknuts these days?
Well, we did our level best to try and stay on top of what was going on at practice yesterday. My comrade Dave Biddle filed extensive reports on the Thursday practice and the Friday practice. He even got into a little bit of the depth chart on the offensive line as it might be shaping up. And then Patrick Murphy, my other comrade, he's been very busy as well, shooting some practice video. And he did an analysis yesterday on our site about it. I've got 2 photo galleries plus everything Ryan Day said yesterday. I'm going to work on Matt Patricia, his interview today. We interviewed Matt Patricia on defense, Brian Hartline on offense, and then a handful, not very many of them, but a few of the wide receivers, Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, Mylan Graham 4, David Adolph, the walk-on 5. That might have been it. I don't know. Bryson Rogers, yeah. So 6 receivers and the 2 coordinators. So we're working on all that stuff, and we get to go back tomorrow. There won't be any interviews tomorrow, but we get to go and watch and take video and photos one last time for now, and we're hoping to get to go on the Big Ten Network Day, but that has not been confirmed just yet.
Tony, what's going on with you this week?
Well, first I'll just say Brandon Innes has looked really good these first 2 days, and I know he's excited to play after talking to him. But yeah, we dropped a live Buckeye Weekly following interviews today, and I'm just trying to get that uploaded to the audio version of that uploaded, and then we'll do a live show tomorrow afterwards as well. That'll be the plan around 11:15, 11:30 after practice to recap what we saw. And yeah, the past few days, BuckeyeHuddle.com got practice reports there, observations, things like that. And there'll be continue to be more there tomorrow as well. So you can find that at BuckeyeHuddle.com.
All right, folks, I'm going to run through the latest from SEC training camps and take your calls in a few minutes over on the main channel. So give me a call and we'll talk SEC as Steve chuckles about the SEC.
Mark!
Oh, Paul. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had a spirited debate the other day about Gus Johnson. We
love Gus Johnson. What are we
I know
talking
people
about?
either love him or, let me put in parentheses, as a broadcaster, hate him.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing I was going to say. I don't think I can. I always appreciate people who are excited about the game, but then there's Joe Tessitore, who I'm like, come on, calm down. This is Vanderbilt and Missouri. It's not the biggest thing in the world, Joe. You can, like that. I think that's why he does well calling when he do like wrestling. It's like he takes that same SEC persona to the ring and is able to call this match between John Cena and I don't know, Razor Ramon. No, not Razor Ramon.
John Cena and CM Punk.
Okay. I better not get started again on that. All right, folks, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football, typically on Wednesday, but please subscribe and turn that bell on to know when we are going live. We'll be back with these two next week.